Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Birth Boss podcast. I'm here today with Miranda Bauer. She is the owner and founder of Postpartum University, and I'm willing to bet 99% of the people listening have heard about you, heard about your program, and I will let you talk about it in detail because you can do it better than me. But I think the big piece of today is definitely weaving in postpartum university and your nutrition certification, but just balancing all the things. I feel like you are the perfect person to have this conversation with because you have right now a lot of things on your plate, and I just want to talk about like the harmony of it all and the I don't know, the not having to sacrifice the things that you love and light you up and fill your cup in order to make all of the things possible. So I will let you introduce yourself first and then we will get right into it.
Yes, thank you so much. I am so honored to be here. Thank you. We definitely need to have this conversation more because, so much of the work that we're doing in the world, especially in the birth and postpartum space, is so much about giving ourselves.
Yep.
And the burnout rate is
Extremely
so
high.
significant. It's ridiculous. It's way more than it ever should be.
Mm-hmm.
And that's because we give so much of ourselves, which is great, to be able to give, but we need to have boundaries.
I know. At what
So
cost? You know, I think that
exactly,
people forget to ask
exactly.
that question. We're giving a lot of our time and knowledge and energy, but at what cost? Like, how much does that drain, from us? So, definitely a question that people do not ask themselves when they are building their business and planning their schedule and their services and offers and all of that. So important, but
Yeah.
forgotten.
Yeah. And you know what? I am a person who has also forgotten those things. And
Mm-hmm.
I have found myself in predicaments where it's like, I don't want to do this anymore. I'm not going to do this. I'm going to give up. And then all of a sudden here comes, some letter from somebody or a text or an email saying, you don't understand how much you've changed my life or whatever the case may be. And then I'm like, crap, now I gotta continue, but I have to do it in a different way. And it's always been such a huge blessing to be able to sit back and not only get those messages that you're making a life-changing, you're supporting people in that way, but also the decision to be like, you know what, I'm my own boss and I don't have to do whatever it is I'm doing that's not working out for me.
Yep. Yep.
And I have done this so often that now instead of getting myself to that point where I want to quit, I literally every quarter in my business sit down with myself and say, where am I?
Mm-hmm.
Am I meeting my needs? Am I meeting the needs of my clients? And where is it that I want to be? And how do I want to get there in a way that feels really good to me?
But it's so hard to say
And by
no.
doing that, by doing that, it has transformed my entire business.
Mm-hmm.
Everything about my life has changed by incorporating that. I don't do it just for my business. I do it for my personal life too.
Right. Well,
It's
I
a
think
check-in with
you
yourself.
you want to be 100% for your clients, but also that means being 110 for yourself. And it is very difficult to say no. Like it does not come naturally to most people. And I think especially in our industry where there's such a need for our care and our expertise and our knowledge, and the fact that we've been there and then we're helping someone else get out of a place that we've been, like that pulls your heartstrings like 1,000 times more. Birth and postpartum, I mean, that's such a heart-centered community, but pulling also from just personal experience. So saying no is very, very difficult, and it takes burning out or near burnout or any of those negative things for us to realize. It's kind of like building your contract. Like, you don't add things till somebody burns you. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, you don't know to
Yeah.
add
Yeah.
something until somebody does something, the wrong thing for you, and then you're like, ooh, that was terrible. Like, I'm going to add that to my contract. So it's like learning how to say no and setting these boundaries. It does not come easily, and it doesn't come in the beginning. You have to, like, someone has to test those boundaries for you to set them even like stronger.
And I feel like there's an art to saying no. I was just actually at this beautiful retreat and we were talking about this very conversation. And there's 6, 7, 8, 9-figure business women, and we're all sitting around this beautiful group. And we're talking about, okay, here's the thing I'm struggling with. What do you recommend? All of this. And this is something that comes up consistently. How do I say no?
Mm-hmm.
And one of the gals was like, hey, there's an art to it. And she told this beautiful story. And this is not my story, but she was saying that recently she had to turn down someone who invited her out to dinner with this other group of people. And they were going to talk about this investment opportunity. And she was like, I just don't have the bandwidth.
Mm-hmm.
And that she decided in that moment, what she was going to do was that day that they went out to eat, she called the restaurant and said, hey, there's this table there. These are these people. And I want you to give them the message that I am so sorry that I couldn't attend, but dessert is on me.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And thanks so much for the opportunity. And so there she paid for their dessert. And I mean, those people are probably like, they're going to consider her again. It's
Mm-hmm.
not going to be a negative no. And she felt really good about being able to say no, stand in her power,
Yep.
and be able to offer, something in return. Now, of course, that's kind of a big, example, and we're not always in a position to do that, but you can think about how you can do that even with the language that you use to express, or how you show up in your daily life. Somebody asked me this recently, Miranda, how do you say no? And it's like, how do I not? My
Right.
time is too precious.
Mm-hmm.
My time is way too precious. And I'm going to give you, like, I have a lot going on, right? My life, I run 40 acres in the middle of nowhere, Alaska. I have 4 children and a husband.
Mm-hmm.
I have a competitive gymnast. So we are literally at the gym about 12 to 14 hours a week.
Yep. I feel you there.
I'm a full-time student. I am a full-time student. I'm
And that's
back
a
in
new thing,
school
right?
again.
That's new for
I
you.
know, I can't believe, and neurobiology of all things that I have to, yeah. So we're doing a hard topic. Back in school, full-time student, and I run a multi-6-figure company.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yes, I have a significant amount of things on my plate, but they're all things that I'm able to have on my plate because I was very conscientious about saying yes to these things.
Mm-hmm.
And here's the other component. I don't do this alone. Like, I made it very clear, if my daughter is doing this competitive gymnast, and she's not the only one in gymnastics. I have my other one who's following suit as well. So she's also in the gym. And right now, in this season, her schedule aligns with my other daughters, but in other times they're not going to align, right? And I made it very clear, like, if we're going to do this, we're doing it as a team, and I'm not solely responsible for being in the gym.
Mm-hmm.
I can't be. And so my husband is the one who also does a lot of the picking up from school and dropping off at gymnastics and all of those things. He's taken on, I would even say, I asked for 50%. He probably does 80% at this point in time, which is amazing.
Yeah.
Right. But the same with my business. I am not the person who is running the whole entire show.
Mm-hmm.
I have so many people who are on my side helping me through the process.
You
I
have
would
to.
not be able to do this work
Yeah.
without this support and help. So, making it, yes, it's also saying no, but it's also making sure that you're not the one who's doing 100% of everything that you want to do. You might want to do something and it might feel really good, but that doesn't mean that you have to be the sole person behind it. My husband asked me, he's like, when are we getting the garden ready? And I was like, when are you helping? Because I need help this year. My
Mm-hmm.
schedule is so much, and we have such a massive garden and planting coming up and prepping for all of that. And we've got a greenhouse, like, there's a lot going on. And yeah. I'm like, I can't be the sole one. Are you going to help? And he's like, yeah, what do you need? Right. Because he's prepped for that. He knows.
Yep. Yep.
And it's just the way it's going to be. Right. So it's a very specific way. And I'm going to tell you too, that this is not how it began. Many years ago, I was the single mom. I had no help. I had no support. I remember asking my mom if she could watch my son so I could have a job interview. And she
Hmm.
said, no, you're going to have to figure it out yourself. And a lot of that was, and I say that story because so much of her, she had a lot of trauma growing up as well. And her mom did the exact same thing. And so still to this day, my mom says, see, I made you tough. You're such a tough woman. And look how far you've gotten. Right. And it's just the trauma cycle.
Yep.
And I can recognize that for what it is. But I say that because I had nothing. I had no help. I had no support. And to be able to build yourself to that step by step by step is possible, is doable.
Hmm.
And I'm a prime example of that. I came from nothing, y'all. I was the kid who went to school with no school supplies because my parents couldn't afford it. We didn't know if we were going to have a Christmas every single year. There was no such thing as new school clothes. There was no such thing as, I didn't know if we were going to live in the same place, right? I always had food. That was good. I always had food, but like very poor lifestyle, it just wasn't what people picture oftentimes. Like I worked hard to get where I am and I own it and I'm never apologetic about it. This is who I am.
Yeah. I love it. I mean, yeah. I mean, there's a lot of power, a lot of empowerment in that. Um, but yeah, I mean, to your point, there's something very powerful about saying no to someone in a way that doesn't upset them, that makes them respect you more, and there is an art to that. There's an absolute art to that. But I love, you're in a certain company when the person you're saying no to, is almost like good for you. Like you realize that it's not the season for you, or you don't have the capacity for it. And nobody wants you at 50%. I mean, that defeats the purpose of probably this connection or this partnership or this investment. So I love when people can recognize that it's not a no, it's a not now, but you know, let me do this for you now, a little token, a little something from me. And then when I have capacity for this, we will come back together. Versus someone being bent out of shape that you say no, and then they're like, fine. And then they're off, asking someone else. So I think that says a lot about, your sort of circle and, the people that you stay connected with. And that's definitely, no, it should be respected.
And when you say no to someone else, even in the most beautiful way, like most of the time when I'm saying no to somebody, it's like, hey, I appreciate you so much for
Mm-hmm.
asking me. And I want to give you 100% of this because I think that you deserve this. But I'm not in a position to do that for you. And I would feel so awful if I showed up at 50% or 60%, and you just deserve better. So at this time, no, but if you do this in the future, like, please consider me. I would really appreciate that.
And I
And
think that
thank
even
you.
kind of
Right.
spills over to home, like to the kids. There are times where my kids are like, come here, come here, come here, come here. And I'm like, I can't right now, because if I do whatever you want me to do, I'm still doing something like on my phone or my computer. So I will literally be giving you 50, giving the whatever I'm doing 50, and I'm going to mess up somewhere. So like, I don't want to do this with you now. It's not a no, but like, you're going to have to give me my time to finish this. And then I'm 100% yours. And most of the time I feel like they're forgiving and appreciative that, I'm saying not right now, in a minute. But that also comes with, a certain maturity and a certain age and time. But it definitely spills over. I don't want to give anyone, even in my immediate family, even like walking the dog, I want to give that 100%. So if I don't take calls, people take calls when they're out with the dog or whatever, or they're trying to post something on social. Like, I don't even want to do that. Whatever I'm doing, I want to be like 100% tuned in, dialed in, and not have to worry about anything else. So it's
And oftentimes
not a
I
not
think
now.
it's helpful. Even if you say no to yourself, if you say no to someone else, you're saying yes to yourself.
Hmm.
So if you could remember that this means yes for you and something else,
I like
then
that.
that's
I like
sometimes
that.
feels really, really beautiful.
But it's hard though. There's a lot of mom guilt for sure. Um, so saying no, I feel like sometimes we don't say no to something, even though it would be saying yes to something we need. We don't say no, and then we're the one who we feel depleted, or we're suffering on our end. So it's not easy. I mean, I keep saying that, but it is not easy to put ourselves first. There's always this like, am I being selfish or am I being selfless? Like what is
But
happening
where
here?
does that come from? Yeah, say no to mom guilt,
Right.
right? That is some generational bullshit. I hope I can say that
You
here.
can swear
And
away.
we have been fed that through so many societal pieces. Yes, it is okay to say no to your kids or
But
say
that's why
no,
moms
not
are
right
so
now.
depleted. That's why moms are
I
so
cannot
depleted.
believe. Yes, yes. So moms are so depleted because they think they have to show up and do all of the things all of the time, be the person who is the playmate and the cook and everything else. Like I don't do that. I don't have the capacity. Now, I will tell you, I read to my kids every single night. We have tons of one-on-one time. I take my kids out on dates. Like we have a fabulous relationship. I have 4 kids, 4, almost 8, 10, and 14. And I've done a fabulous job raising my children. They're incredible human beings. And I am not the person who sits around and plays for hours a day. I don't.
Mhm.
But I'll teach them to cook. I'll read them books. I'll teach them how to sew. Like we do things together, but in a different capacity than what I think our society has always pushed
Yep.
moms to do and how they pushed moms to show up. And then if you don't show up, then, who are you and what are you doing? And you're not a good mom and all of the things that we tell ourselves.
Right.
Please just say no to that because it's not serving in any way, shape, form, or fashion.
Right. Right. And I
I
think,
know when I'm gone from my family for a short period of time, whether I'm at a retreat, whether I'm at a business meeting, whether I'm like, I just need to decompress in my room for a half hour. Like,
mhm,
this is where I need to be right now. My kids understand that. They're like, yeah, absolutely, mom. And I know that I'm going to come back a better mom and able to serve their needs far better. And they know it too. That's why they're like, cool,
I love that
whatever you need.
as a
And my
postpartum
kids know it
doula.
too. They do it the same thing. They do the same thing. Mom,
Yeah.
I need some time. Okay, what do you want? Sometimes their time is like, I need to snuggle. I need to co-regulate, right? Especially the little ones. As my kids have gotten older, they're like, nah, I think I just need to go put on some headphones and listen to music for a little bit, and I'll be back shortly, and then maybe we can talk.
Yeah.
Perfect. Right? Like awesome. This ability to self-regulate is a skill. It takes time and it's not easy, especially in the beginning when you have young kids who need to co-regulate with you and they're learning how to do that self-regulation. But when you model how to do it, it gives them permission and the safety net.
Yeah.
And there's so many components that I could get into. And I know that so many of you are probably like, wait a second. What about attachment to parenting? And what about this? And what about that? And it's all included. It's all there. And I'm
But they
telling you,
come
you
back
just have to figure out a system that works beautifully for your family,
when
right?
they're
What I do
older.
for mine might not work for you.
When
You
they're
know,
older, they want to
uh,
come back and sit next to you. Like they go
they do.
when they're younger, they want to be right next to you. They go through a time where yes, they want to put on their headphones and go in their room. And then at some point, my oldest is almost 17. They do want to come back and sit next to you, which is nice, which is nice.
They do. My 14-year-old came and snuggled with me on the couch and we just chatted, right? And so he feels safe enough that he can do that. And that's a beautiful thing. And we were talking about everything that, is, school and all of those things. He's telling me about his day, his friends, girls, like
All
everything.
the things.
So
Yeah.
all the things, right? And so, I know I'm doing a good job.
Yeah. No, and
But
it is beautiful when your kids
yeah,
just talk and tell you all the things. And my kids are definitely sharers. And I love that. But one of the things you said, which I thought was very interesting, kind of clicked in my postpartum doula brain from like that first day home, right? Your postpartum doula's in there if you have one. And you know, I was a postpartum doula for a long time, and now, you know, my main kind of thing is running my agency. But one of the key components to doula care is the parents, and it's mom focused, and it's really like, you know, you first. You don't have to be everything to everyone and put yourself last. Put yourself first. So I think, you know, it's so important to get those messages that are like clear and consistent and frequent but positive from like the get-go of parenting, that, you know, it's so silly, we always say this, but you know, there's a reason why they tell you to put your oxygen mask on first, because if you don't and you're trying to help someone else and you can't breathe, and you know, you're not doing anyone any good. So, you know, it's so silly that we say that, but it's like the honest to God truth. Like, if you don't take care of yourself and you're not on your A game, how are you going to care for anyone else? And how are you going to continue to nourish yourself? I mean, that's the other part of it, is you're not going to be able to continue caring for yourself and filling your own cup, but you have to come first. You have to make yourself like the primary focus, so then you can turn around and focus on, you know, other things that are important. And if, you know, time goes by where you don't learn that, I mean, it's very hard to undo. And that's like where the mom
I'm
guilt
gonna,
comes from. That is where the mom guilt
yeah.
comes
I'm going to tell you too, so many of us, including myself, when I first started, built my business on trauma.
from.
We
Mm-hmm.
build our business based on what we needed during that time,
Yeah,
right? How
100%.
many of us have created a business and birth and postpartum to serve families so they don't experience the crap that we experienced?
Yeah, that's what, how and why
So
my business
we're
started.
showing up, we're showing up in a place for other women and being that person we deeply wanted to have in our lives and didn't.
Mm-hmm.
We wanted to have somebody who is there for us 1,000 times over and showed up in that capacity. But what we failed to realize is that we wanted ourselves to be that person who showed up,
Mm-hmm.
not someone else. Yes, we needed somebody else. Yes, we needed somebody to be there to recognize us, to see us, to care for us in that capacity. But it would have never have happened if you didn't do that first.
Yeah.
And so when you show up, and I hope that makes sense, like you have to be there first for yourself before somebody else is going to come in and do that work for you. When you believe in yourself, when you honor yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's probably one of the hardest things about pregnancy and birth and postpartum, is that we come face to face with how much we don't do that.
Right, right.
And
It's hard to recognize.
and it's, yeah, and we hire somebody else. Maybe if we have the ability, we can still hire somebody else to be there and to support us. But something is always going to feel like it wasn't enough because we didn't do it for ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't show up for ourselves. We didn't put the boundaries in place. We didn't say, wait a second, I need this. Or wait a second, I don't need this. It's
Right, right.
we and it's hard to do when, you know, oftentimes we're thrown in the mix and we have zero support and we don't know how to care for our bodies
Mm-hmm.
and how they're changing. And we think, oh my gosh, I don't even know what I need at this point in time. And it's because we're so disconnected before we even got into this space.
Mm-hmm.
And we have to take a step back from the work that you're doing and all of the above and just say, okay, what is it that I need? And it's not about, so many people get caught up in like the big goals, right? Well, I need to be strong and fit. So I'm going to run a marathon, or I need to, you know, be really, really healthy. So I'm going to go vegetarian or whatever the new fad is, right? I'm going to do this. And so they make these massive goals for themselves rather than focusing on the day to day stuff, right? It's not about, you know, the big goal. It's like, how do I get one extra meal of like super nutrient dense foods?
Mm-hmm.
How am I able to do the dishes and feel good about them? because
Yeah.
it's a daily thing, right?
Yeah.
How do I fold the laundry and put them away so I don't feel overwhelmed tomorrow?
Yeah.
It's how the daily grind, chop wood, carry water, the things that we have to do every day. How do we make those things better in our lives so that we feel good? And I was reading a book recently about changing. It's called Think Again, and it's about changing the way we view things and questioning ourselves and questioning the things that come into our lives. And it was a beautiful story, and a lot of things I disagreed with, but made me think again, right? Like it was a really powerful book. But he was talking about, the pursuit of happiness is the very thing that so many people will fail at.
Hmm.
We're not here to be happy. We're here to experience meaning. And if the more we chase happiness, the more unhappy we will be. But the more meaning we have in our day-to-day lives, the more we are going to feel deeply connected, and we're going to feel as if what life is worth living for.
Hmm. And I
And
think
so
go ahead.
go ahead.
I was gonna say, I think, that's really hard for people, I think, to recognize that they need something from someone, or, just something from themselves. And I think more often than not, they're able to say what they don't need or what's not helpful. Like, I think that kind of comes out easier. Like, it makes me think my oldest is, doing her college search and all that. And everyone's always like, what do you want to do? And she's like, I know what I don't want to do. Like, I don't. And so she can list off the majors she doesn't want, but like, it's hard for her to know exactly what she wants or what she needs for herself. And I find that a lot, even with myself. I'm not great at asking for help or figuring out what I need, but I'm very quick to say the things that would not be helpful, or the things that I have covered or I don't need. And from there, like, my family can figure out like what that leaves, and things that I need. So I feel like that definitely also is, that's not easy either, to figure out exactly, what you need from someone and tell them, and
I'm
say that
so
in a
glad
way.
that you said this.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I feel like if we treat it like a science experiment rather than an end all be all, right? Especially with your daughter figuring out what is it that I want to do. So many people, they will say, here's all the things that I don't want to do. That leaves, XYZ
Yeah.
open. So maybe I'll try this. And then what they do is, instead of looking at it as a science experiment and saying, how do I feel in this moment? How am I doing this? How am I moving through this? Is this something that I love? Is it something that I enjoy? What they do is they say, I think that's going to be the thing. And I'm going to push through,
Mhm.
and I'm going to do it until I finish it. And we do this all the time in business too. I'm going to push through. I'm going to do it. I'm going to work hard. And then at the end, you're just super unhappy because you should have quit 2 years ago, or moved into something different that felt more aligned. And so if we look at it like a science experiment, this is my major, right? And I love science. But if it's like, okay, what does bring me joy? Maybe I'm gonna, find myself in pottery. And then you go to a pottery class and you're like, well, I didn't really feel great, but I met this person who also does photography, and they invited me to this thing. And so I'm going to go explore photography. And then you go, to the photography meeting, and it happens to be you're hiking, and you're like, man, I really hated messing with my camera, but I really loved being outside hiking with those people. So now you're like, okay, now I have something. Now I'm going to go join a hiking group. Right. And so you're just like picking and choosing what worked,
Yeah.
what didn't, using up that experience, and then moving to the next. And I was the same way when I was, I didn't have a postpartum nutrition certification program in the very beginning. That was not my intention. That was not my plan. And actually, I resisted it for a really long time. But I was a doula. I was doing the work, and I loved that work. But I started cooking meals for people. And I was like, I don't even
Mhm.
like doing that for my family.
Right,
I
right,
don't
right.
want to be in the kitchen cooking meals. And so I was like, how do I do this in a way that feels better for me? Because now I'm starting to not like showing up. And that's not where I wanted to be. And so I was like, well, I'm going to start educating. I'm going to start teaching. And I was like, oh, that feels so good and so aligned. So I started teaching. And then I had more kids. And as I had more kids in my life, I was like, I can't keep showing up at night. I can't keep
Yeah.
showing up for these things. And so at every single point, I had this like this new thing. Okay, well, I'm not going to do this teaching part. Instead, I'm going to have coaching and I'm going to have it during the day. I'm going to
Yeah.
start coaching online. And then it transformed. And then, it kept going. And then I had doctors and providers calling me, what are you doing with my client? Because they're finally getting off their meds and we've been trying for years or whatever the case may be. And I was like, I remember sitting at a business retreat that I went to, and one of the gals was like, wait a second, you have providers calling you all the time and you tell them no, like there's nothing you can do. And I'm like, no, I'm not serving providers. I'm serving moms.
Mhm.
Like I was very adamant about the work that I was doing. And she was like, whoa, wait, you realize that by serving the providers that you're changing so much of the postpartum paradigm and you're touching the lives of even more women. And I was like,
Oh.
no. I remember I was like, no, 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 you're wrong. No, that's not true. And I sat there for like 6 months on that thought, like, I think she's right, but I don't want to admit it. I think she's right. And that's how the certification program was actually born. I will tell you that I created an outline of that program and then I posted it online and said, this is what I think I'm going to do. If anybody wants to join for this, let me know. And it's going to be XYZ. I think it was like $800 or something in the very beginning.
Yeah.
And within the first 24 hours, I had over 10 people registered. And I was like, shit, I'm going to have to
Better
create this.
hustle.
I have to create this program now. Like, what the heck am I going to do? So that is how it was born. But you could see the transforming, like, if
Yeah.
I just stuck by what I wanted, I would have quit and I would have been done a long
Right.
time ago.
I mean, it's
But my life,
beautiful to have
yeah,
a business.
it's transforming.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
I mean,
transforming.
it's beautiful to have a business that feels so flexible as your life evolves, as you have that second kid and third kid and fourth kid, and you say, okay, nights are a no-go, but I'm going to move this over, do it during the day and change it up a little bit, like a little bit. And that's, I mean, we're so lucky that we have like the vision for that we know what we need, we know our capacity, and we know exactly how to navigate that business wise. Now, we're not letting anybody down. We're not caring for the people or not educating the people that we were doing before. We're just doing it in a different way that allows us to give them our 100% and not be doing it at 7 p.m. after a day and we're exhausted and we don't want to answer questions after. Like, that's not what they're paying for. That's not what they need from us. So we're able to recognize and pivot. And I think that's what doulas do best, to be honest. We recognize and pivot. We can do that in our business, and it helps our clients, it helps our families, it helps our mental health, our emotional health, our physical health. But no one's losing. No one has to sacrifice. And I think that's, before we kind of recorded or before I press record, we talked about this, and I said it's incredible that you listed 100 things that you have going on right now. And I think someone else might have been like, ooh, not a good time to go back to school, or not a good time because I have A, B, and C. Like, B can shift to something else. Someone else can take B to gymnastics, so I can do this on Tuesdays. We all win. And you can have it all. I mean, I know everybody says, you can have it all. Can you really have it all? Yes, you can have it all. You just have to be very smart about the things you say yes to, and very intentional about not the scheduling. What's the word I'm looking for? Fitting everything in.
Yeah, yeah. There's something that really unexpected came up for us recently too. I'll share a little bit about my journey and how I'm fitting this in. I actually got a message that some things were happening with the midwives in the state of Alaska, that the governor was removing the board. He signed an executive order to remove the midwifery board, which has so many costs to the state of Alaska. Like we would lose direct entry midwives. They would not be able to bill insurance. Like it would be massive. And so here I am, like I've never been involved in politics. I like, this is not an area that I shine at in any way, shape, form, or fashion. It's not even one that I really enjoy. But the purpose, what's behind it, I was like, no, we have to do something. What's going on? Right. And I ended up getting really involved. I was showing up, giving testimony, emailing, senators and everybody in between, making contacts, connections. And I had no idea. I told myself, this is getting way over my head.
Mhm.
How am I going to do this? It's something that I believe in that needs to be taken care of. And yes, there's people who are doing this work in the state, and I'm working along these people, but and maybe they don't need me, but I'm gonna feel really bad
Right.
if I am not showing up in this space and it doesn't work out.
Did you have
And
your
so it
kids
was
at
a
home?
matter of, do I what?
Did you have your kids at home?
I have one kid who goes to preschool for 3 hours a day and I pick her up.
No, no, no.
So I have legit,
Did you have like
and
birth?
then my other three are at school.
No, home birth. Did you have your kids at home?
Yeah, I had all four were home births.
Okay, okay.
So all with midwives, right? And so it's
So
very, very
again,
passionate.
this my kids were born at home too. Like you said before, it's an experience that you had that propels you into something.
Yes.
This is
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
is your love for your experience, and whether it's traumatic or whether it's incredible, it makes you hyper aware of the what's the word like the effect of these things where someone else might have been like, oh, the midwives and it's fine and this, that, and the other thing. It like thinking back how that would have directly affected the way you gave birth and your experience. Like you're so tied to that now. So that has propelled you
Yeah,
to do great things because of an experience you had.
absolutely. And I have to decide, how am I going to fit this into my life?
Mm-hmm.
Where is it going to be? Because I don't have space and I don't have time for all the things. And so it was a matter of me sitting down and being like, okay, where is this going to go? How is it going to fit in? And I was able to make it happen 20 minutes, 3 times a week.
Yep.
That's really all I need anyway, right? And it doesn't have to be significant. And when I sat down with myself and said, okay, what is it going to take? How much time do I need? What is it that I really have to do here? And I wrote a list. I've got to email this person. I got to connect with so and so. I need to ask this person about this. I got to make a phone call here. I got to show up to give testimony on this date. And it was like, oh, in the end, it's only this much time.
Right.
And I'm still able to give 100% to this cause,
Mm-hmm.
and it's going to be amazing. So, and I'll end with a really great story is that it's not over yet, but the governor is going to reject it as far as we know. So hopefully that happens next week or two. So that's super exciting.
You are somewhat
Progress.
responsible for that. So and that's incredible that you moved a mountain. You moved a mountain.
Yeah.
For at 20 minutes a day, 3 times a week. You were able to
Yeah.
make significant change and impact on the moms and the families in Alaska.
And a lot of that was actually gathering other people to do this work too.
Mm-hmm.
Enlisting others and to be like, hey, we need help here. We made a Facebook group. We like, hey, we need this petition signed, or hey, somebody, can you do this, or can you share in this group, and let's get other people who are involved in this, so that we're all writing emails, that we're all doing this work together, so that I can only spend 20 minutes a day. And of course, there's some incredible human beings who are behind this, who are showing up and flying out to the Capitol. We're in Alaska. You can't just drive there. You actually have to fly to the Capitol. So there's so many people who are doing far more work than I, and have moved more mountains than I on this project. But yes, to know that I have given, and it does feel good. And it's not something that I intentionally planned. Those things come up often for us in our lives, right? Our kids get sick, a family member, might get hurt, or a car accident, or passes, right? We have so many things that happen in our lives. And it's nice to know that, yes, even though things are full, I also have space for that,
Mm-hmm.
because I've created the life in which that can occur, right?
Yeah.
I still am able to participate. I was cross stitching this weekend. I was like, oh, I'm gonna have fun. I haven't done this in a long time. I'm gonna cross stitch, or, I get to experience the things that bring me joy as well, because I created a life that allows it.
And a solid
And
foundation
it's
for that life. If something falls
yes.
off or something breaks, or if you need to, do something else, there's, a level below you and a level below you for people who can hop in and help out anytime. And that's significant. That is, so important. So, no one's left without, like, all the things are taken care of. If you need to, be somewhere else or step away, or like you said, 30 minutes of just your alone time, everyone feels good about it. Everyone feels
Yeah.
solid because they're taken care of.
Yeah. And I will tell you, there are times where things come up and I feel overwhelmed, right? Like, I'm a human being too. That does exist. And I take those in as really important lessons.
Mm-hmm.
Why am I feeling really overwhelmed in this moment? Again, back to that science experiment. How do I prevent this from happening again? Where did the breakdown happen? Should I have asked for help here? I'm asking constant questions of myself,
Mm-hmm.
so that I can plan around it, or I can design the life that I need, right? So that I don't feel overwhelmed in these moments again.
Yeah.
And I think that's the key. Rather, so many of us are so overwhelmed by the consistent things that are happening in our lives, right? We're overwhelmed by our laundry room.
Because I
We're
think
overwhelmed by the dishes,
we're
right?
reactive instead of proactive. Like,
Exactly.
how can you
Exactly.
be, overwhelmed by something like over and over and over again? If it's overwhelming, take a look at like the root of it and figure out how to, you know, either space it out or make it less overwhelming, or whatever you need to do. But we don't, we continuously react to something, and it like is a slow breakdown, why?
Absolutely. And
Why
and to
are
get
we're
out of that,
like that?
yeah, and to get out of it, you take 10 minutes to sit down and be like, okay, what are all the ways in which I can get out of this?
Mm-hmm.
Does it mean that I need to hire somebody temporarily? Does it mean that I need to ask a friend to come over and help me tackle this space over wine and cheese?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Do I need to have a laundry party? Right? I don't care. Get creative. Figure out what it is that you need to do to get out of that funk, and build a system to prevent that from occurring in the first place. And that becomes your number one goal.
Yeah.
Right? And then when you master that, then you can take a step back and be like, okay, what now? It used to drive me insane, absolutely insane, how messy my living room would get in a matter of 10 minutes, right? 4 kids. My living room would take forever to clean. I was like, I am so sick and tired of having to do this every day. Like, my living room we have a very open concept house. It's the center of everything. And when that thing is messy, it feels like it throws everything off. It's the weirdest thing for me. I can't explain it, but I recognize the emotion. I recognize the feeling. And I was like, something's got to happen. I can now have my living room cleaned in less than 5 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
I took out all the junk. I took out all the things. There's nothing there. If the kids got some toys, they know they've got to put it away right away. And actually, we got a dog, what I want to say 8 months ago, a puppy.
Mm-hmm.
And there was like no more toys in the living room, or you're not going to have toys because he's going to eat it.
Yep. Yep.
And so now we've
Make you
got
move your toys
this
real
rhythm where
fast.
there's no toys in the living room. They don't bring those things down anymore because they don't want the dog to eat it. And of course, he's kind of grown out of a lot of those things, but like now it's a habit, and now it just feels good. And so anyway, all of that to say, it's like we looked at it. What can we do? How
Mm-hmm.
can we move through this? And we've got people to help make sure that this doesn't get chaotic.
Yep.
And it
And
feels
that's so
good.
important. That's so important. You know, how can you make things simple? Like that's, you know, and it feels good for everyone and no one has to dread like the living room pickup. And I don't know, it's just, there's simplicity to all of it. But again, it's recognizing maybe not what's helpful, but what's not helpful. So, you know, what's not helpful in your situation would be maybe building like a huge chest to throw all the toys in because the toys are still there. Like that's not helpful. What is helpful? So we can scratch that off the list. So some deductive reasoning in there, but
Yeah, you know what? And Facebook, ask your friends, like,
yes,
or whatever the case may be. Like, you can take some time to figure out, hey, I've got this scenario. It doesn't make me feel good. What are some things that I can use or
market
do
research.
to really fix this, right? And make that the priority rather than I'm going to run a marathon, or I'm going to change my entire dietary requirements, or I'm going to, all of these other goals that I see people create, which I'm not saying is a bad thing. If you're in a place to do those things,
Yep.
then do those things. Absolutely. But if your day-to-day life feels like chaos, then those are probably not the places that you want to start.
Yeah. Yeah. No, 100%. I mean, I think that, you know, we'll wrap up kind of with this, but I think prioritizing the things that make you feel good and keep your cup full and light you up and bring you joy is just it's like the place to start, and then you will find everything else falls into place. You don't have to work as hard putting things together. It naturally falls into the place. So yeah, work smart, not hard, you guys. You heard it. You heard it from
Yes.
Miranda first.
Amen.
Work smart, not hard. But
We can't
wrap
do
this up.
all the great work without it.
Yes,
If we're
yes.
falling apart, we're not going to build a successful business.
Right. And
If
we're not going to be
we're
able to
not
help
getting
as
our
many
needs
people.
met, we're not going to meet other people's needs, right? Like it's just not going to work.
And our whole
Start with
business
yourself.
is built on other people's needs. I mean, and I guess you could maybe say that for every business, but I mean, like, these are needs that are personal to us. These are, these are like the center, the root of all needs comes from, babies and motherhood. And that's just the seed that, you have to plant to start it all. But the needs of our clients are of the utmost importance, I will say.
Yes, so true.
Yes, but I will have all of your information in the show notes, all the places you can find Miranda, Postpartum University, her nutrition certification, all the ways that she can help you help other people. You're incredible. I appreciate you. You guys keep being bosses and have a wonderful rest of the day.